Bennett.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Immigration. How is the government planning to further combat the exploitation of migrant workers?
Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Mr Speaker, this week I announced plans to introduce tough new changes to the Immigration Act in order to make it clear that unlawful and exploitative behaviour will not be tolerated in New Zealand. A new offence will see exploitive employers of temporary migrants face up to 7 years in jail, fines of $100,000 and be liable for deportation. Mr Speaker, by breaking the law, unscrupulous employers not only prey on vulnerable staff, but they also gain an unfair competitive advantage over the majority of good, law-abiding employers, and the government is taking the issue very seriously.
Supplementary, Dr Jan Yang.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. What needs to happen to encourage exploited migrant workers to speak out and come forward?
Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Migrants need to be able to speak out against exploitative employers without fear that they themselves will be penalised or even deported. That's why I've issued new instructions to officials asking them to shift the focus onto employers and away from the employee that comes forward with a complaint. I've asked that those who come forward be able to reapply for a new visa, should they need it, without the fact that they may have been in breach of their previous visa conditions counting against them. It's important that this message gets out in our migrant communities, Mr Speaker. That's why I've also asked officials to work closely with our migrant organisations and community leaders to build a communications plan through various channels to get that message across.
Supplementary question, Dr Jan Yang.
How will government agencies be following up on allegations from migrants who come forward?
Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Immigration New Zealand agents and the Labour Inspectorate will work together to investigate and take action as necessary. As we begin to lift the lid on exploitation and get a clearer picture of the size of the problem, we will distribute resources as necessary. Well, if the member would be quiet, I'll answer the question. We will distribute resources as necessary to ensure that these new initiatives are properly supported. I'm working closely with my colleague Honourable Simon Bridges, who's in charge of the Labour side of things, and from an immigration perspective...
Order! Order! Would the Minister please finish
I'm
his answer?
exploring future funding options around Immigration New Zealand's enforcement capability.
Supplementary question, Darian Fenton.
To the Minister, does he expect Immigration New Zealand to do more with less when it comes to investigating and prosecuting cases of migrant worker exploitation, as he told the Transport and Industrial Relations Select Committee a couple of weeks ago, and given there is no increase in the 2013-14 and out years budget for inspection and enforcement?
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Well, I'll clarify what I said to the Select Committee, and it was this, quote, "The last thing I would say is about resources. I make no apology, as the government doesn't, for asking our public servants to do more with the same," end quote. I then went on to discuss the fact that with those same resources, we've managed to reduce the overstayer rate by about a third, which was what it was under Labour, and the number of voluntary departures from New Zealand by illegal overstayers by 50%. I think that's a very good outcome by our compliance team. I expect the same in the area of exploitation.
Question number 9, Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of State Enterprise.